Hey everybody, thank you for joining in. Enjoy my theme music done by my brother out of Houston, Texas, Q-Stone. The title of this track is Can't Let Go, because I just can't. Can't let go of the fact that I want better things to happen. Look at this. I see my guest. I see Dr. Martin. Hello, Dr. Martin. He's a fan favorite. Yes, he is. One of the better parts of my 2020, that Dr. Martin. Vincent Durham is on. What's up, Vincent Durham? I'm excited about today's show, folks. I'm all about sharing contents, informing, celebrating. Yay! Alrighty. So glad you guys can support me. What's up, Phil? I see ya. You've had a busy week. That second tax wave hit you. Oh boy. Feeling good this Sunday morning, October 18th. That I am. So, we're almost ready to get started here. Just a few more people to hop in. Again, most people watch this on replay, and I'm totally fine with that. I get my viewers and my audience the best way that I can. Success is a slow crawl. All right, folks. What's up? Welcome to Soapbox Sunday. I am Jermaine Taylor. Folks, trans lives matter. Full stop. Nothing is more powerful than surrendering to your true identity and your true self. When you decide to live unapologetically, it sort of forces others to respect you, to see you. They may not understand you in your totality, but at least you've gotten their attention. And when you've gotten someone's attention, that's when you can start to educate them. My guest today, Jazzmun Crayton, has been schooling the masses ever since the late 80s. I swear to God she has. Her activism, her vocals, her acting in over 50 television series. On film, she starred opposite Steve Carell in the 40-year-old version. Her very presence in this country lets us know, it stretches our mind to what a truly diverse United States can be. I love her. She saved my life and she doesn't even know it. I'll share that with you guys at the top of the interview. But her life is the foundation for the likes of Laverne Cox and the cast of Pose. She's also on my soapbox today. So guys, hold, and I will get the legendary, the trailblazer, Jazzmun Crayton on the soapbox. Hold on, guys. Hello. How you doing, sweetie?
I'm excellent. I hope my lighting's okay. I'm in my office at work.
You are beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited about you being on the soapbox.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. How's your week been? You have a good week?
Excellent. I've been really, really busy, but grateful and just like practicing maintaining my peace, you know,
yeah.
And healing attachments, healing what I thought I should be or have or know, and just being exactly where I need to be and being enough in that moment.
Jazzmun, before we even start the conversation, I'm just going to share with you and with the audience how you affected me before we even really got to know each other. And I won't mention the gym because they ain't giving me no money. but we met at our gym. And I'll never forget, it was back in 2006, 2005-ish maybe, I'm thinking 2006. That's when I had begun this really, really dark journey in my life. It was a very lonely period that I had to go through to get to where I am today. And I was willing to do it, but it was a tough grind for me. And I remember one day I had my head down. I don't know if I was reading, but I was kind of distracted. And I smelled something. I was like, oh my God, that smells good. And I looked up and I realized that it was you. You were walking by. I was like, wow. And I felt like you sensed me staring at you. and you turned around, Jazzmun, and you looked dead in my eyes. And in that moment, because I was trying my best to avert people from looking at me because I had a lot of things going on. I didn't like the way I looked at the time. It was just a lot that was baked into my life. But you looked dead in my eyes. And in that moment, I knew that someone saw me in that space. You know what I'm saying? And I really appreciated it. And I know it was a small gesture, but for me, it saved my life. Because, you know, LA is a very lonely place. It's a very busy place, but it's a very lonely place. And in that moment of you seeing me, it did so much for me. So thank you for that. I never shared that with you. And I've always wondered when I'm going to be able to tell you this. And today is the perfect time. So thank you, love, for just being that person in that moment. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Let's get started, sweetie. You pinned this beautiful Facebook post back in September, and it was called Divine Appointment.
Yes.
And you talked, girl, I did my research. And you talked about your mom. You talked about some of your journey and leading up to where you are today. And there was so much that I was able to infer from that. As a child, Jazzmun, how much did you rely and how sacred was your imagination?
You know, it was really all I had when I was a child, in the sense that my mother was, you know, in that writing, you know, my mother was a single mother, so I had to take a lot of responsibility on, right? I had to be, quote unquote, the man of the house because I was the eldest child. It was my two siblings underneath me, Kiara and Chloe, my sisters, and yeah, and you know, we had to get creative about like what, you know, what our day-to-day life looked like, because, you know, my mother, you know, she was away a lot. You know, she was working. She was, you know, really enmeshed in the church, or Church of God in Christ. So, you know,
wow.
she was this young widow woman in her 20s raising 3 kids. So I love, you know what, my favorite thing, I grew up doing break dancing. So I love to put cardboard in my in our driveway and dance, teach everyone dancing and break dancing. I love to, like, I thought I was really going to be, you know, Debbie Allen and Dance with Leroy on Fame. I really was, that was my aim. So, yeah. I mean, when I was a child, I mean, I was Charlie Brown in my elementary school play. I was Tevier in my junior high school play. And in high school, there was this thing called air bands. So I was Prince one year and Michael Jackson the next year.
You just ran again.
And then a TV show came on called Putting on the Hits. And
oh my goodness.
I wanted to go on the show so bad, and I wanted to go on as Tina Turner. My grandmother came to visit my mother eventually got married, right? And so my step-grandmother came to visit Grandma Gertrude from Philadelphia, and she loved to wear high heels, like 4 or 5 inches. Anything less, you might as well be wearing flip-flops. Like she was a heels girl. So I would put on her heels. Yeah, I was already practiced up because I would wear my mother's dress in heels too. But I would put on her heels, and I had Tina Turner down. Like Tina Turner would have gagged to see me do Tina Turner.
Oh, wow.
I was like, Mom, I want to audition for the show. She's like, you're not auditioning as Tina Turner. You better come up with another act. So I my mother, and I, you know, I respect my mother, my family. So I came up with a different act, and, you know, I got on the show. I did Al Jarreau's Boogie Down. And
really?
I think I got 3rd place. I was 15 and a half years old. And I remember the, like, consolation prize was some candy and some shaving cream. And I didn't have anything to shave. I was 15 years old. So, you know, it came in handy for my stepfather and, you know, whoever else. But yeah, I got on the show.
Wow. So other than Tina Turner, who were some of your other media influences growing up? Like, what other divas that you pulled from and didn't even know that you were pulling from?
My God, I was obsessed with Diana Ross. You know, I just love a pop diva. I love a fierce pop diva. You know, there's levels to being a pop diva, but I just love all the pop divas. And, you know, I love the mystery behind them. I was obsessed with Prince and Michael Jackson because they had an androgynous element to them. And, you know, and they were larger than life, right? And they had an appeal that everyone loved the children, the family, every
Yeah.
nationality, everybody. You know, they had a mystique about them, and I didn't realize until I was older that they had studied the greats like Wilson Pickett, James Brown. You know, I didn't know Little Richard, right? I didn't know this until I got older, and I started working at a club called La Caja Fall in Los Angeles on La Cienega. When La Cienega was called Restaurant Row, I used to work there, and I worked at the 4-star before it was Mickey's in West Hollywood. So I worked there with Shisha LaRue and Bobby Etienne and this fabulous queen named Jinder. And so the first woman, like when I came out like 87, so Jody Watley was like the ticket.
Yeah,
right?
she was
Don't
popping.
You Want Me still?
Yes.
So I would go to the clubs, you know, WCBC in San Diego. That's where I'm from, Oceanside. And I would like perform in the clubs and get their coin, get their money, and then move on up, you know, kept going. So I lived in Vista for a while. Then I moved to Laguna Beach with a boyfriend, and I did clubs there, DOK and all the clubs in Orange County. And then from there, I made my way to Hollywood. And so I started doing shows. And Whitney Houston was my bread and butter for a long time. But initially, I got to go all over the world impersonating Whitney Houston. I toured the Catskills and all up and down the East border, from New York all the way to Vermont. I went on a really beautiful tour with La Cage, where it was like a theater in the round. So we just did theater in the round, and we got on a bus and just traveled all the way.
I'm very familiar.
So it was really nice. Then I had the opportunity to go to Spain with, oh my God, what was the name? Bill Lloyd. So Bill Lloyd, the first time I ever been out of the country was with Bill Lloyd, and I didn't know that anything about a siesta, and that in Spain they take a 2-hour lunch break. So I was late for rehearsal, and I said, well, these people are not opening the door. They're not trying to let me in. And then they were like, oh, because it's lunchtime. They take 2-hour breaks. And I was like, oh, okay. So I lived in Spain for 6 months I was there doing the riots. I came back.
Okay. When the riots were going on here, you were in Spain.
Well, I actually flew out the day the riot, because I came back. We had a break. And I came back to, wrap up some like bills in my apartment. And the next day the riots broke out. And I live right on Hollywood Boulevard. So like Hollywood Boulevard was on fire. Like it was like really wild. And I was praying that I get back, because I made a commitment, and so, and I got bumped up to one of the lead characters in the show. So, by the skin of my ass, really, I got on the plane. They let me on the plane, and I was able to fly out in the midst of the riots and go back to Spain. And I literally came from the airport, walked into the theater, put on my makeup and everything, and literally walked on stage. It was just like that. I was like, oh, there's something greater, bigger than me.
Because you were just prepared. Before we go on, one of my guests, Aisha, wants to know what it was like living in the OC during that time as a Black person. The OC is known for being very conservative. So did you experience anything that was pretty much, flag worthy of mentioning right now, or was it just pretty much, an even kill?
Well, I like I said, my partner at the time was a Caucasian man. His name was Steve. His name was Steven. And so I was recovering from a car accident. I'm going to be real honest. I got in a car accident. I had two options: either go back and move with my family, or move with this guy, right? And so I moved with Steven. And so I got up there, I was recovering, and then I wind up I always had a gig. So I wind up being a cashier at a Rite Aid, I believe.
Oh, wow.
And I would walk to work. I don't know. It wasn't the same vibe as it is now, like, the energy that's going on now. So it was just different. I was just trying to survive. I was in survival mode. I knew that.
So you had a tunnel vision. You probably didn't see all those extemporaneous.
Yeah, I did. And I even moved. I moved furniture there. I remember I used to move armoires and people's furniture, people's houses. So I went in some of these grand houses. I was just like, I was so.
You were trying to eat.
I was trying to eat. I was trying to survive.
Yeah.
I was young.
I get it.
I think I was 19. I was just trying to.
I get it. I get the hustle. Trust me. When somebody talks to me and get to know the fullness of my journey, they're gonna be like, "Damn, boy, So check this out. You talked about earlier your family, and you mentioned that your mom said you wouldn't go on putting on the Ritz as Tina Turner. So did you find that there was a lot of ducking and diving as to who you were becoming, and you had to let them know in increments as to who you were becoming? Or was it just an unspoken evolution and they would just pretty much understand as you would go that this was the journey that you would be on for the rest of your life? What do you think? What do you say to that?
Um, it's a combination because I hold my mother in high regards, and I didn't want to disrespect her, but I was not going to hide out and pretend, right? Like,
Right,
and
right,
and
right.
I call it perpetrating a fraud. Like, I was not going to pretend like every time I show up, I was going to change clothes or do something. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
it was prevalent already that I was very effeminate, regardless if
yeah,
I verbalized it or not. It was in my movement. I was constantly being mistaken with my mother. When we were together for being, her daughter or a young lady, and I'm sure it sent shivers up her spine. But ultimately I know that she, wanted a son, but at the end of the day, and I didn't have language then, right? I didn't have
right.
language. There wasn't social media.
Yeah,
I didn't have the ability to Google things and search and
yeah,
say, oh,
yeah,
this is who I am, and now I'm going
yeah.
to stand in my truth. I was just going on what was there and readily available to me. But
Right.
I accepted myself at a very young age. Um, I should say my femininity, right? My feminist. And so it was never to me a burden, but what it was is that I did not want to live in secrecy. So I
Yeah.
made it clear, I knew when I turned 18, I did not want my mother, when I moved out of my mother's home, I didn't want her hearing from friends or people in the church that, oh, I saw da 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 at this club, or da da da, is this and that, or that I got, sick with HIV or just something. Because at that
Mhm.
time, HIV was very,
Yeah.
you
It was
know,
rampant.
it
Yeah.
was rampant. People were
Yeah.
literally dying like daily. And so,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
I didn't know anyone personally, but I would hear stories, and so
Mhm.
I just was thinking like of myself, but at the end, like my family too, because there was a real respect there. So I told my mom right away, like, Mom, I'm a homosexual. So I'm gay, and my roommate's a homosexual, and this is
Mhm.
it. This is what I know, who I know myself to be at this moment. And so she in the moment, she smirked and giggled, and she cried and said that, oh, I guess I won't be receiving any grandchildren from you. And I was like, well, don't be so
Yeah.
sure. I don't know,
Yeah.
right? I don't know what the
Yeah. Yeah.
universe
Yeah.
has in store for me, but
Right.
I just I wanted clarity, and I wanted, I just wanted, the truth as I knew it to be in that moment. You know,
Yeah.
I needed that opening. I needed that release. I
Yeah.
needed to be able to stand and move in my truth. And my mother was very supportive. I mean, I was able to move out of my mother's house because she helped me get a job in banking, right? So I was in college, and she told me they were hiring students. So I worked up at Security Pacific Bank for a minute
Mhm.
as a teller.
It's
And
really telling because I had the same somewhat journey. Although my parents knew where I was headed, they hated it, they resisted it, they tried to pray it out of me and all that
yes,
stuff because I too share the Church of God in Christ upbringing with you. However, it was a twofold thing. They were surrendering to it as well,
yes,
making sure that I was loved. The things that they didn't want to see me do, they had to encourage me to do because they knew if I wouldn't, it would crumble. We wouldn't have a relationship at all. So it was funny how they were able to accept it, but accept it on their own terms. And it took me getting older for me to
hmm
realize exactly what they were doing because it was a fight for them. It really was. And, I'm trying to bulldoze the door open, and it's like,
yeah,
oh, give me some time to get my
yeah,
head around it.
yeah.
And even to this day, there's a little pushback, but I get it. When was Jazzmun Crayton born?
So, God, I've been Jasmine for so long. um, so the name, the spelling of it, I should tell you, like, it was really given to me. It was gifted to me by
Mhm.
someone, like a mentor. I've had mentors my whole life. Someone
Yeah.
that has shown up right on time and just honored me and celebrated me in that moment. And so Jazzmun is spelled Jazzmun, and Jah is the beginning, Jehovah, Jesus, Buddha, the beginning, right? Jah, and then Z is sound. You can heal, you can live, you can breathe, you can levitate, right? It's healing sound. And then Mun is sun and moon, man and woman, and the U connects them. So yeah, it was like I've always had amazing like spiritual God, mentors and ancestors and guides always like supporting me. So someone told me, I gave me that, that name. Like my birth name is Nichcala Crayton. So I use Jazzmun Nichcala Crayton.
It's so a la Shaka Khan, because when someone gets her name, her full name is like long as hell.
Yeah.
And I think a high priestess out of Africa gave her that name.
Yeah.
And I was just listening to an interview that she did with Lunel over the weekend, and she talked about the evolution of it and what it meant. So when you were talking about that, I was thinking about that past interview.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so special that all that meaning is under your name. So was it an evolution as to who Jazzmun was, or did you have an idea as to where you were aiming?
No, complete evolution. I'm still in the midst of a transformation. I feel like I'm always in a transformative state. That's in my mind, in my spirit, in my body. So it's not it's not linear. It's not an end, right? It's very
fluid. Maybe?
Yeah, fluid and very fluid and very expansive, right? So like it's just been the beauty. I've been an entertainer my whole life. Like I've always been in some show, on somebody's show, traveling. Like I worked casinos. I've always, and what happened is that initially when I was in the show at the restaurant, we had to have boy names. We had to come out at the end. People had to see us leave as boys or whatever.
The reveal,
This is at La Cage because it was supposed to be men dressed up as women, right? But I always told the what do you call it? The producer, like, darling, like I need to be called Jazzmun. Like that's who I am. That's I work at the other clubs. Everyone knows who I am. And so he wasn't initially wasn't affirming, but then one day he allowed the host said, "And ladies and gentlemen, Jazzmun." And it was just like at different points in my life, people really affirmed who I was, La Cage, Gypsy. I work with Gypsy.
Who's Gypsy? I'm thinking that.
Actually, how I got to La Cage is Bobby Etienne, rest Bobby Etienne. So Bobby did Tina Turner and Anita Baker. And Bobby used to work after the club at Four Star. And Bobby said, "Girl, what you doing here? You need to go down. You young, you pretty, and they need some more black girls down at the club. You need to go work there."
Like you said, people finding their way to you, making the way for you. That's divine appointment, sweetie.
It was always, like I said, divine appointment. Like someone showed up at that time, and I was ready to receive what they had to say and the blessing that came with it. So it was never like, even my whole career, it's not this fighting struggle. Oh my God, when am I going to get this? I'm going to make it. It's never been like that for me. There has been times where I had to step aside and say, you know what? I'm really caught up in the fantasy of the illusion. I have to sit down. I have to sit this one out. Yeah. Because it's not resonating with me. It doesn't feel good. And, I'm not happy, right? And not that my goal is to be happy, but like there was turmoil, right? There was conflict that was going on. Conflict. So, but no, the universe always shows up and says, you know what? It's playtime. You get to play and have some fun, right? I was so grateful that I've been all over the world. I've been to Japan. I lived in Vienna. Oh my God, London, I've been to a lot of places, and actually, it's hard sometimes, even today, when I don't hear the phone ring, they're like, "Jasmine, you want to go somewhere?" I'm like, when they don't do that, then I figure I got to pay for the ticket.
Your gift made room for you, Jasmine. Who is Nick to Jazzmun? Like, what's the relationship there today? Like,
so I had to do a lot. I had to do a lot of writing, a lot of reading and writing around that, because I had to honor that child. Like Nick is like this beautiful little black boy, right? That that I did not have a relationship with my biological father. So there's always some type of, you know, I guess longing, a desire to develop a relationship with a man, right?
Yeah,
Even intimately. Um, and that's because, both me and my father didn't really make an effort. And I know he's still here at this moment, but we didn't make an effort to like develop a relationship. So,
sure.
and I don't blame my mother because they were young. I don't blame anybody. I don't do the shame and blaming game because she was
Sure.
young. She was 18, 19. He was young. They were children, right? To some
Yeah,
degree,
yeah.
right? Children having children. And, he probably didn't do, what she asked one day. And she said, don't worry, I got this. But he
Sure.
never really made an effort to come back, right? And like say, look, I want to be a part of this child's life. So to some degree, I'm always working through some sort of abandonment. So that
Mhm.
I had to come to an acknowledgement, in this transformation, like, wait, Nick, don't leave Nick on the corner. Don't leave Nick at the bus stop. Like, bring Nick, nurture Nick, right?
Yeah,
Let,
yeah,
love this child, like love the baby that you are and were. Because
yeah.
like I was listening to Deepak, I love Deepak Chopra and Oprah, I love
I
them
do
too.
too.
So I was
Yes.
listening to one of the sessions and he was like saying, we want the same things that we wanted when we were a baby as
Yeah, we
adults.
do.
He said,
Yeah.
we want attention, acknowledgement, full, appreciation
Yeah.
and true acceptance, right? And so until like I could be where I need to be in that moment and accept that for my baby, my youth, like it
Hmm.
was very difficult for me to continue with my movement and my transition, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So and that's even why I still honor, like I carry that piece with me, just so there's some sacredcy, like I'm like there's a sacredness to my childhood, right? Because I was not, I'm very grateful, like I wasn't thrown out, like, or someone laid hands on me in such a way. Now I'm not saying my mother didn't whip my behind, and
Yeah.
we still talk about that. I'm like, girl, you overdid it, but but I like I remember the last time she tried, I was like, no more, girl. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
slave whippings, I call.
Honey, you had evolved. Let's do a hard turn, as they say in journalism, and I just learned that from Tamron Hall. They call it a hard turn when we're going to a different topic altogether. Your talent. When did Hollywood come calling? Did you
I,
start auditioning, or like how did you start to tip in those waters as as Jazzmun?
you
I
know,
mean, how did it start?
let me tell you, it was always a dream. That was all. I always wanted to be in film and TV. I didn't know how I was gonna do it. I didn't,
Yeah,
and I was just like open, like to whatever would come. So that's I
sure.
had to go on putting on the hits, and I was
Yeah.
focus, right, laser beam. But I used to, well, they call it dancing, but I used to take all my clothes off at this club called Peanuts on Santa
Oh
Monica
wow.
Boulevard on Monday and
Uh,
Friday. It was Club Illusions, and I forgot what we called it on Friday. I think maybe Monday and Friday, both Club Illusion. I can't remember. But I
mhm.
used to dance there. People loved my dancing. I would do flips and with in a G-string and a bra and panties, and people just loved
Yes,
it.
indeed, and it
So
was a show.
yeah, so one day, my youth, yeah, I love my youth. One day, this queen walked up to me and she's like, Jazzmun, I cannot believe you're still dancing at this club. Girl, they're hiring people like yourself, trans girls to be in TV and movies. I was like, oh, really? I was like, well, how do I do that? And so she said, I'm going to put you in contact with an agent, this gentleman named Ralph Latiris. He worked at a agency called Gilla Roos in Beverly Hills at the time.
I know
So you
Gilgaroos.
know Gilla Roos? Okay, so I
I
went
do.
and I met with Ralph. Why can't I think of the queen? Hopefully her name come to me because she's still my neighbor.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, she still lives right down the street from me. It's Maya. Um,
She'll come. Yeah, yeah.
um, introduced me to him, and then he sent me on my first gig. And my first job interview was John Larroquette show. And so I went an audition for John Larroquette over there at the Sunset Gower Studios. This is like
Okay.
90, 93, I think 94, 93, 94. And he gave me the gig. Like
Wow.
he was like, yeah. So I thought it was a one-time thing, you know. And he brought me back. That character reoccurred for 2.5 years.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I reoccurred on his show for 2.5 years, and he had some great talent. Shy McBride was on there. Oh
Mhm.
God, it was this other young black guy. He got in an accident, but he's still acting. I just saw him. He's on NCI in New Orleans with what is her name? Oh God, I'm bad with names.
CH Pounder, CCH Pounder.
He's on the show. He's the gentleman in the wheelchair. Um,
Oh, I know. Yes, I know you're talking about.
yeah,
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 he has an interesting name. I know
yeah, yeah,
exactly who
yeah.
you're talking about. I
He
can't
was,
think of his name. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
he was on the show. Liz, I can't think of Liz's name, but a lot of people. What's her name? Started there. What's the girl that superstar, the comedian? That was one of her first.
Molly Shannon.
Yeah, me and Miley Shannon did John Larroquette together. That was her first gig.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
we did John Larroquette together. Yeah, so
So as you started working, did people start hearing more about you? Was there like a lot of to pull from in terms of transgender actresses, or was it just?
no. I was a novelty at that moment. I wasn't the first. Trust. There was another queen that was on the show, and actually we worked
Yeah.
together. David
Okay.
Michaels was on the show before me. So
Mhm.
David Michaels reoccurred before me on the show, and then they brought me, and I started reoccurring.
Okay.
When David was phasing out, my first show was with David. So we were at this
Mhm.
bar, and so they phased David out, and then they phased me in. And so, David was working. I knew David because we worked at La Cage together, and he was, working, doing a lot of TV and movies. So people were doing it before me,
Yeah.
but still, I don't think there was a lot of, it was a novelty. It wasn't
Yeah.
like they were trying to build dimensional characters out of it, right? It was
Sure.
just,
Sure.
it was, I'm a character actor. They brought me in as a character actor, right? And
Yeah.
I happened to play a working girl that hung out in this a bus stop or whatever, or bus terminal that John ran or something, because he
Yeah.
was a recovering alcoholic. And
Mhm.
yeah, people still quote my line. I remember someone walked up to me and they were like, what's your occupation? I was like, what? And it was like, beautiful person. I was like, oh my God, where's that from? And they were like, that's from the John Larroquette show. I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. That's the funniest thing, when people walk up to me and start quoting lines. And I'm like,
Wow.
where's that from?
So you've never felt exploited as a transgender actress. It was never,
No,
it was okay, great.
no, no
Yeah.
one, no. It's funny, today, like, when I listened to some of the kids, they were like, I guess my stuff was a little controversial because, but I never died. I never felt like anyone was laughing at me or put me down. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel that way. And as an actor, as a performer, like, for me, I should say, as an actor, I don't show up on the set and tell you how you need to do it, how you need to write, the piece. Either I show up and I audition, I do it, or I just like, it's not
Yeah.
for me, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, 50 plus, right? I've been in a lot of shows that I never was seen in. I was on.
Oh, girl, I'm on the cutting room floor of a lot of things. Trust me,
Yeah,
I get
I
this.
was pissed. I did. What was that? What was the wives thing? It was on
The first wife
ABC.
club.
No,
Oh,
no.
yes. Yeah, yeah. It's been so many. I know you're talking about it. I can't remember,
It
but I know
was the
you're talking
popular one, and Vanessa
about.
Williams was on it, and
Desperate Housewives.
yeah,
No.
I did just for Housewives, and I wind up not only on the cutting room floor, but they recast the character. But my agent said, "Don't worry, honey.
Did
Every
you
time they
cash the
show
check
it,
though?
you'll get the coin." And I had never experienced that before. I was like, "What do you
Girl, that
mean?"
hurts.
They told me I was too pretty. I was like, "They don't tell Pamela Anderson she's too pretty." I was pissed. I was ready to fight.
The only thing that soothes the wound is the check you can cash, because it's just such a blow to your ego when you realize, I mean, I did all that and they made me all pretty and I'm still not going to make the final cut. Ah!
I was
This
nervous.
town is not for the faint of heart. It's not.
No, it's not. And I tell people, like, babe, you don't even know. I remember I did Roseanne. I did what her favorite episodes to do were the Halloween episodes. And
Mhm.
so I booked the gig as Diana Ross because she was going to be
Oh,
Prince, and then somebody was going to be Batman. Like, we were all going to carry on. So I went to the table read. It was great. I came back, after lunch from the table read, and half the people were gone. I was like, where did they go? They were cut. I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God, please don't cut me. But and then I saw this white woman, how much power she had. Like I had never seen that. I never seen the power that she had. I remember she said, when I come back, I want to line, I want TNA on this stage. And I never seen so many beautiful girls in bathing suits and two-piece bikini. And I was like, whoa, this is her show. I was like, oh, she's a producer. Like, and then you see power play, and you're like, oh, wow, this is interesting.
I tell people all the time, getting in this industry is one thing, but once you see the way it's constructed on the inside, you have to like take back and just kind of watch it and understand that getting even to that point is a big feat. Yeah. And you have to be grounded within yourself to even handle it, because it can psych you out.
Yeah. And people really don't understand the auditioning process. Like, they're not giving me the gig because I'm cute, right?
Yeah.
They're like,
it's
or that I was on somebody else's show. They don't care that I was on 50,000 other shows. They're like, we need to see if you can do what we need you to do for our
in this moment.
In this moment. People, a lot of times, they're like, oh, well, after the fact, you got a great resume. They didn't even look at the resume.
Yes.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, I was like, it's out of your hands. Just show up, do what you do, and let the universe do the rest.
And I tell people, I'm not going to be doing no shaming, blaming, and ragging on Hollywood, because my time in Hollywood has been absolutely amazing. I've worked with the best stars. I've had the best experiences. I've been able to travel, eat, pay my rent, hang out with my friends, go see my family. It has been an excellent journey for me, right? And actually, it's grounded me in a way, right? I didn't know that I was supposed to be here. I moved away from Hollywood so many times. I lived in Florida. I lived in Kissimmee, Florida. I lived in Biloxi, Mississippi. Like, if a show said you want to go and make some coin, I was out of here. I was like, it's not that important. But something kept drawing me back. I wasn't done with whatever it is that I was supposed to be doing. Yeah. Right? And then I had to get away from the idea of being famous and being rich. Right? Like, that was hard though, because I had done so many gigs. Like, I was in I was in the first Black gay love story, movie called Punks. It was a big deal. It went to Sundance in 2000. So I was a lead, and I thought, oh, this is my big break, and everybody's gonna see it. And Billy was up there with the film. I forgot, he was like in a baseball film. Like, we were all up there.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. So why is my memory escaping me today? Yeah.
Yeah, we were up in Sundance, living. I was like, oh my God, this is it. And I was with, a cast of people, these excellent actors, and no one saw the damn film. The film never got released. So I just thought, well, I mean, it's a cult classic, right? Like, a lot of people saw it, but it didn't get the release like Trick or some of these other movies, right, where they're like classic and people know them and everything. But it's the 20-year anniversary of that movie, and I'm so grateful that I'm still here, for one, but two, that I had that experience, because I until that point, I hadn't worked with other black queer actors at that level, right? I usually show up and see them just me. So that's why when I saw Pose, I was crying every show, like every episode, because I saw all these Black and brown queer kids playing on television, getting paid, and like being, really carrying on and kicking and telling stories. I was like, oh my God, this is absolutely gorgeous.
But honey, you have to know that you were witnessing is on your back. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
You paved the way in increments of time. Yeah. The guest starring on John Larroquette that led to more. The Roseanne on the cutting room floor. All that led up to Laverne Cox.
Yes.
It led up to Pose. Yes. And that's why when you mentioned earlier this week, you asked me if I wanted you to bring someone else on. I was like, no, I need to celebrate you. Because when I started digging into your pedigree, I was like, wait a minute. This is a trailblazer. And people need to know who she is. And I have access to her. And because I have access to her, I want my viewers to know who she is too.
Thank you.
I tell you, it's funny because after I met you, I was like, wait a minute. I saw her in the 40-year-old version.
Yeah.
The connection came afterwards. And it was
Yeah.
just really interesting because I'm normally seeing people thinking, oh my God, I saw you on this. But it was an afterthought after I saw you when
Yeah.
that happened. I was like, wow, that's interesting that happened that way.
Yeah.
Did your success in Hollywood, did it mend the relationships with your folks, your mom particularly?
No, because my mother was never caught up in that. I remember my mother when I went to go visit one year for Thanksgiving. I used to go for Thanksgiving. I'm going again this year.
Mm-hmm.
My mother said she was in the kitchen. She heard my voice in the living room, and she said, "Nick not here." And then she walked out and she saw me on television. And I think that was the first. I don't know if she's even seen any of my. I don't know if she's seen a lot of my work. I don't know, right? I know that
Really?
my sisters Kiara and Chloe, are avid, supporters and love and just love me and promote my stuff. But I don't know if my mother, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure she's seen a couple of things. I don't know if she's like a fan.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and that's a mixed bag. Even with me, and I hate to keep pivoting to me, but because I feel like we have so much in common, that world is really hard for people in certain segments of our demographic to even visualize. They see the television and they feel like it's just so disconnected. They do. And then when you dare want to be a part of it, they see it more as a pipe dream, nothing reality. Your life is not really grounded. And then dare you get on the other side of that television tube, sometimes they still have a hard time
Yeah.
wondering how you got there, or if it's just a one-off time, or how will you be able to support yourself doing it. So it's a lot baked in the cake with that particular thing. So I do understand that point of view. Mentoring, do you have a lot of transgender budding queens, I should say, that look to you and seek your counsel to this very day? Are you pretty much a backbone for them right now?
We're backbones for each other. Like
Okay.
my sustainability, right, and me being able to be visual. I mean, excuse me, visibility. I need my sisters took care of me, right? They made sure that I had a gig in the club, even if it was
Yeah.
paying me $50, $60. Like that would put a little money in my car. Like this whole
Yeah.
time in between gigs, like I needed a gig, right?
Yeah.
Because those gigs, after I paid the agent, and the manager, and the taxman get his money, I'm left with a couple dollars. Maybe I can get some food. Whatever that looks like. But so like my community, has always taken care of me, right?
Yeah.
Like I have two good friends. Like I didn't have nowhere to live one time. My friends David and Keith put me up in their apartment, in the Hill, and I was like, thank you. I just, I was going through it, so.
Yeah.
Are always, and so now I'm in a service position. Like I'm a senior manager of strategic partnerships at APIT, and as part of my gig, I have a house that houses 16, trans women who are navigating homelessness, and so it's one of the most gratifying things that I've ever done. When I go there and I see them chilling, watching television, and I'm sitting there, chilling with them. It feels really good. It's like these girls, sometimes oftentimes we don't these I always say these systems that are in place were never designed with us in mind. Never.
Sure.
So us trying to find our way, even in the showbiz stuff, they don't know. A lot of times they don't know. And so they're either working off of the experience that they personally had or that they heard, or a friend or a cousin, but they don't have the personal experience. So they oftentimes don't know how to develop right? So and I didn't realize that, until I started working, like, oh my God, you need to be on a show for at least a couple of years in order to have some kind of security. Otherwise, you just guest starring the whole time, and that's erratic. You know what I'm saying? So, personally, I had never had the opportunity really yet to be on something where it was consistent, right? Like a Pose, right? Where you're constantly either being seen or there's a constant, check coming in. And it's changed a little bit how they're doing it. But like the community, just, to answer your question, has always taken care of me. And therefore it is an honor and a privilege for me to provide and take care of the community.
Yeah. And speaking of
Yeah.
taking care of each other, are there systems in place? Are there conversations being had with regards to these senseless brutalities that we're hearing about on the streets? And I don't want to go into graphic detail, but are you guys articulating ways that these young women start to protect themselves and look out for one another? Like, are you guys having those conversations within your groups right now?
Oh, we constantly are having those daily. I have a program
Okay.
called the Midnight Patrol where we're out on the street and making sure that the
Mhm.
girls are not being attacked. Because just recently, one of our community members, she was literally attacked in a park, and they stabbed her 19 times, and it was
Yeah.
senseless. So
Yeah.
the Rampart, they requested my presence, and I went there and I spoke, and I was like, "Let me know what we can do because the park is too dark."
Yeah.
I specifically rode the train. I need to make sure that you light it up in this area. And, right now in LA, people, there's a lot of homelessness, and people on the street. So there's a lawlessness going on to some degree because people are coming with comorbidities, right? There's mental illness, there's drug addiction, there's trauma. So there's a lot of stuff going on, during
Mhm.
this pandemic. So my whole thing is like, we have to stay present, village, excuse me, we have to say, I can't even think of the word, but
Vigilant.
vigilant, excuse me,
Yeah.
vigilant through this process. Like, we cannot be losing focus because
Yeah.
even 45's on TV clowning, it's like we're having real issues on the ground.
Yeah.
I call it ground zero. And I was
Yeah.
telling somebody, look, the people that are in the tents and why it's so busy on the street is because it's called shelter in place, right? We
Yeah.
want to make sure if they're not inside the building that they're somewhere. Right. So, but in that whole situation, like, it could be dangerous still out on the street. Like, I prefer the girls that sometimes, they buck with me, but I'm like, girl, I prefer you in this building and we knocking heads and, carrying on and, you can fight me in the building than you out in
Yeah.
that tent. Right.
Yeah.
Then you in a
Yeah.
tent and I can't see you and I don't know those people.
It's
Right.
an
And I don't,
exposure.
it's just, you're open, you're susceptible to whatever's
Yeah.
ever is happening
Yeah.
in that moment.
Yeah. And it's a good thing that you guys have those things, because I just often wonder, like, what is your internal response as to what you're doing as opposed to what you guys are relying on the community to do for you. No one can take care of you like the way you can take care of yourself. So it's
Yeah,
really
but
assuring and comforting to hear that from you.
yeah,
Yeah.
but at the same time, we have to have those
Yeah,
those
we do.
support. We do.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
sometimes people say, I don't want this money, I want that. I'm like, honey, all this money is dirty. You need to. I need to make sure that I don't. The whole land is stolen. So, like, I need to make sure that my peeps are fed and there's a roof over their head because I need you to rest. I need you to
Yeah.
have rest time because I need
Yeah.
you to recuperate and I need you to get some new ideas and some
So
new
you can go
choices
back
about
out.
who you are in this process
Yeah.
because you're not done. You're
Yeah.
breathing. You got to get back out there. You got to get back out there and do what needs to be done.
Jazzmun, what keeps you smiling, sweetie?
Today, like, I'm still hopeful.
Yeah.
And when I really think about my life, like, it's been good.
Yeah.
Like, it's been good. Okay, certain things didn't work out the way I wanted to work out because I had expectations, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, I may not have the $1 million so I could, get my boots and, get every, going on my trips. But, I I believe there's, right now I feel I have unbound freedom,
Yeah.
infinite possibility, and
My
pure
God.
potential, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
everything is still, even in the midst of a pandemic and the uprising and the shift in the universe, I still personally feel hopeful. And because I
Yeah.
feel hopeful, I believe that I can illuminate that and show that, and people can see it and be hopeful through even just being in the presence, right? In
Yeah.
each other's presence. And, like, I'm hopeful now because I have no idea who's paying attention or who's listening, to us today. But I know that, somewhere out there, someone is affected because I'm affected by the process.
Yeah.
I'm affected by my shares, right? Like,
Yeah.
oftentimes I have to be very frugal about, you know, who I share with and how I share, because I don't want to re-traumatize myself. I don't want to always be talking from a place of trauma, you know, with my own personal stuff. So I'm always working through that. So I belong to a spiritual community that keeps me grounded and keeps me open and available, and keeps me seeking and searching for my own personal truth.
Well, I just went on from the way that we connected when we barely even knew each other. That's what drew me to you. I was like, wait a minute, why am I being so emotionally affected by just seeing you? When you would take the dance classes, I was always drawn to you. And I guess I was needing something from you that you were emanating, because I was deficient in it at the time. So I knew if it was feeding and fueling me, I must provide a way it can do so for others. And we're just mere vessels. We have to get the word out there to people. Like I said in my top of the show, a lot of people watch it in replay. And that's when I get the bulk of the feedback in replay. So I'm excited to know what you're going to do for the masses after this conversation. Last question, sweetie. The message to those struggling to understand the life of a transgender human being. Give me some salve to put on those ongoing struggles and wounds as to how people can finally understand. Wait a minute. No, this is not some passing phase. This is who I am. What would you say to those people?
Watch my movie, In Full Bloom. It's on Amazon Prime, seriously. Because
In Full Bloom.
They need to see us in everyday life, right? It's a humanizing thing. And because oftentimes they say they don't know us. If you don't know something, you don't trust it, right? You can't trust it, or you don't believe it. And at the end of the day, we have nothing to prove. As trans individual, gender nonconforming folks, Black queer folks, we have nothing to prove to anyone, right? So for me to say that I have an answer, or there's going to be all, or you're going to understand or comprehend, oftentimes we're asking people to love us and want us that don't love and want on themselves.
Right.
So we're seeking it. So that's what happens, is that we come into contact with people that are not loving and appreciating their own selves, and we're asking them for all this, asking, but we actually, all we're doing now these days is demanding that, you move out the way so we can get, take up the space that we so deserve, right? And so that's why I'm loving, like right now I'm also in this movie called Disclosure. That film is the bomb, right? The history of like trans lives on screen. And I totally appreciate like with Sam and Amy did, right? And then Laverne taking on an executive position, like as long as people can constantly see and know and be around and realize like there's other people moving and navigating in various different ways, and you know what, it's okay. But what happens is people get caught up in the ideology of like how things was and how they think things should be. But I always tell people, honey, the universe is shape-shifting. You need to get in the mix.
That's it, or you will get left the fuck behind.
Yeah. And listen, I always tell people, look, your children will reveal what you need to know if you don't get it together. Either your children or someone close to you, because these kids, it's not that they know more than we knew before. It's just they have a different platform they get to dance and perform on. And it's one that everyone is clicking on these days, right? TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. All of it.
Yeah. I call it the quick hurry up and wait sensation. They get to this and they go to that. They get to this, they go to that.
Yeah, I tell my piece, be gentle with yourself. Like, you don't have to know everything.
You don't.
And remember that you're worthy. You're worthy. You're worthy. Yeah. Whatever it is that you want, you're worthy. I tell everybody that. Like, don't get caught up in the fantasy of the illusion, how you think it should be or how it ought to be. And get rid of your expectations and heal attachments. Like, that is my goal today. My purpose is peace, right? All healing happens at the level of the mind.
You have brought peace and healing to the soapbox. I so thank you. You have. I'm not kidding you. I don't think I've ever been this relaxed. And I've been doing this for some time. I started back in June, and I am just so relaxed talking to you because this conversation was needed. It's worthy. It's now. You are all that. And I thank you for just allowing yourself to just be a blessing to me and my platform. Thank you so much, sweetie.
Thank
I
you.
look forward to whatever you have coming up. Please let me know. I will blast it. I got a big old mouth and I will tell the world what you got going. Now
Oh,
you say
I
In Full
will.
Bloom is
I
on
will.
Amazon right now.
Say that again.
In Full Bloom is on Amazon right now, Amazon
In Full
Prime.
Bloom, Transcending Genders on Amazon Prime, and
Okay.
Disclosure is on Netflix. Watch them.
Got it, sweetie. Thank you so much, Miss
Oh, and get my
Jazzmun.
song. Get my song on Spotify. Your love
Which
is
one?
giving me. I have a new song on Spotify. Your love is giving me my life.
Your Love is Giving Me My Life on Spotify, and it's Jazzmun, right?
Yes.
Got it, baby. I love you, sweetie. Thank you so much for jumping on the soapbox. You have a great week.
Thank you. Same to you.
Bye, Jazzmun.
Bye-bye.
Folks, that was Jazzmun Crayton on the soapbox today. Folks, I hope she gave you something that would inform you, educate you, and help you celebrate whoever you are. Live unapologetically, people. Surrender to your truth. Honey, we're all trying to heal each other. We're all trying to heal this world. And being a vessel, understanding who you are in this moment is a part of that healing. People may not understand you, but like I said, once you got their attention, therein lies the foundation for an education. Thank you, Jazzmun. Folks, thank you so much for jumping on the soapbox today. We'll be back next Sunday with something more exciting. And remember, vote 16, 17, one of them, more days. Vote. We can change the land of this country. Bye, folks. Bye-bye.